Forensic Audit, Concepts and Techniques. Good morning, everyone. Myself, C.A. Bhupesh Khanna. Today, we explore the critical field of forensic audit. This specialized audit combats corporate fraud and promotes transparency and justice in finance. First, we will discuss Introduction to Forensic Audit first. Definition: it is a specialized audit using investigative skills to detect fraud and financial misconduct. Second, objective: it uncover fraud and gather evidence for legal or dispute resolution use. Third, key characteristics: it is investigation-based audit, not routine. Legal context-focused in audit. We collaborates with legal and IT experts. Now, we will discuss the scope and applicability. Number A. When forensic audits occur first. Where suspected fraud or misappropriation occurs second. In case of corporate disputes, third. In regulatory enforcement cases, fourth. In matrimonial asset investigations, fifth. In insurance claim probes, B. Applicable sectors for forensic audits are first. Banking and financial services, second. Public sector units, third. Corporate businesses, fourth. NGOs and charitable trusts. Next point is techniques used in forensic audit, first. Data analysis and digital forensics, using specialized software to analyze data and recover deleted files. Second, Benford's law detect statistical anomalies suggesting fabricated figures. Third, ratio and trend analysis. Spot irregularities by comparing financial ratios over time. Fourth, document review and verification. Cross-check invoices, contracts, and confirmations. Fifth, interviews and background checks. Gather insights via interviews and verify individual credibility. Sixth, red flag and link analysis. Identify fraud indicators and map fund flows between entities. Seventh, reverse engineering reconstruct transactions to validate authenticity. Now we will discuss the legal and reporting aspects under forensic audit first. Report, preparation, factual, objective, and well-documented reports with clear conclusions. Second, legal compliance. We must adhere to Evidence Act, IT Act, Companies Act, and relevant laws. Third, professional standards, maintain confidentiality, skepticism, independence, following ICAI guidelines. In last closing and key takeaways for you first. Forensic audit essence. It combines detective mindset with rigorous legal standards. Second, role for auditors, essential in fraud prevention, detection, and legal accountability. Third, preparation. Mastering forensic techniques equips future chartered accountants effectively. Thank you for your attention. Forensic audit. Concepts. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, C.A. Bhupesh Khanna. I hope you are all doing well. Today, we are going to cover a very significant and emerging area in the chartered accountancy profession. Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, also known as FAIS, issued by the ICAI. 1. Introduction to FAIS. In the wake of increasing corporate frauds, financial irregularities, and regulatory scrutiny, the ICAI has taken a major step by formalizing and standardizing forensic practices through the issue of the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, FAIS. Effective from July 1, 2023, these standards are now mandatory for all forensic accounting and investigation engagements conducted by members of the ICAI. 2. Objective of FAIS. The primary objectives of these standards are: 1. To promote uniformity and consistency in forensic engagements. 2. To enhance the quality and credibility of forensic accounting practices. 3. To establish a benchmark for professional conduct during investigations. Now we will discuss about the updated list of FAIS as of July 1, 2023. The standards have been categorized into functional themes covering engagement management, planning, execution, reporting, and quality control. Here's the latest list of FAIS issued by ICAI. Under Group 1, Engagement Framework, there are 4 standards. FAIS 110, Understanding the Nature of Engagement. FAIS 120, Understanding the Fraud Risk. FAIS 130, Laws and Regulations. FAIS 140, Applying Hypotheses under Group 2, Client Interaction and Acceptance. 5 standards are there. FAIS 210, Engagement Objectives. FAIS 220, Engagement, Acceptance, and Appointment. FA is 230. Using the work of an expert. FA is 240. Engaging with agencies. FA is 250. Communication with stakeholders. In Group 3, Execution and Methodology, there are 6 standards. FS 310, Planning the Assignment. FS 320, Evidence and Documentation. FA is 330, Conducting Work Procedures. FS 340, Conducting Interviews. FS 350, Review and Supervision. FS 360, Testifying before a Competent Authority. Under Group 4, Use of Technology in Special Areas has 3 standards. FA is 410, Applying Data Analysis. FA is 420, Evidence Discovery in Digital Domain. FA is 430, Loans or Borrowings. Under in Group 5, Reporting and Quality, only 2 standards. FA is 510, Reporting Results. FA is 610, Quality Control. Now we will discuss the practical implication for CA students. As future chartered accountants, it's crucial that you understand the structure and application of each standard. Stay updated on how these are implemented in real forensic cases. Treat forensic accounting as a strategic skill set that enhances your professional value. Regarding reference materials, you can download the complete set of standards and the implementation guide from the ICAI's official portal under the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards Board. FAISB section. Website, https://www.icai.org.post 19227. To conclude, forensic accounting is no longer just an auxiliary discipline. It is now a formal, structured, and regulated professional service. Mastering FAIS will not only prepare you for specialized engagements, but also enhance your credibility in high-stakes financial investigations. Thank you, and keep exploring the forensic world with diligence and integrity. You. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Myself, CA Bhupesh Khanna. Welcome to today's session. In this session, we'll dive deep into the first and foundational standard, FAIS 110, Understanding the Nature of Engagement. First, we will discuss Purpose of FAIS. 110 FAIS 110 guides the professional in understanding the specific nature, scope, and expectations of the engagement before commencing work. Why is this important? Because forensic assignments are often complex, involve multiple stakeholders, and may be conducted under legal or regulatory scrutiny. Next is Key Objectives of FAIS 110. This standard helps a forensic accountant to understand the type and purpose of the forensic engagement, identify who has engaged the practitioner and their authority, determine whether the engagement is investigative or evaluative in nature, clarify the reporting expectations, format, and timelines, assess any legal, ethical, or regulatory obligations. Now we are moving on Applicability and Scope. FAIS 110 is applicable to all types of forensic engagements, whether conducted for corporate fraud investigations, regulatory compliance audits, legal dispute support, internal fraud detection. It must be followed whether the assignment is conducted for private entities, regulators, or courts. Next topic is engagement types. FAIS 110 recognizes that forensic engagements may take various forms. Fact-finding investigations, identifying what happened, when, and how. Cause and effect investigations, understanding root causes and consequences. Litigation support, preparing evidence for legal proceedings. Regulatory investigations, complying with a statutory directive, e.g., SFIO, SEBI, ED. Now we will discuss about considerations for the forensic professional under FAIS 110. The professional must document a clear understanding of the engagement objectives, identify any conflict of interest or independence issues, consider the confidentiality and data sensitivity aspects, ensure that the terms of reference or engagement letter reflect mutual understanding. If clarity is lacking, the practitioner should seek clarification in writing before proceeding. Next is requirements of documentation under FAIS 110. The forensic accountant must maintain documentation on who appointed them and under what authority, the agreed-upon objectives and deliverables, communication with the client regarding scope and limitations, legal or regulatory mandates, if any. The key takeaways for CA students. As future forensic professionals, always remember: never begin a forensic engagement without a clearly defined scope. FAIS 110 is not just a formality. It's the legal and professional foundation for your work. Misunderstanding the nature of the engagement can lead to serious legal consequences, professional misconduct, or inadmissible evidence. Closing statement. To conclude, FAIS 110 is about clarity, compliance, and confidence, three essentials in any forensic accounting engagement. Master this standard, and you will lay a strong ethical and procedural foundation for every assignment you undertake. Thank you, and stay tuned as we continue exploring the next standards in this vital. Hello and welcome everyone. Myself, C.A. Bhupesh Khanna. We are continuing our study of the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, FAIS, issued by the ICAI. Our focus for this session is on the second standard, FAIS 120, Understanding the Fraud Risk. This standard is essential for anyone performing forensic assignments, as it helps identify, assess, and address potential fraud threats in an engagement. The objective of FAIS 120 are as follows. FAIS 120 aims to guide the forensic professional in recognizing the types of fraud risks that may exist in the engagement, assessing the nature, likelihood, and impact of fraud risks, understanding the context, industry, and control environment in which the suspected fraud may have occurred. Next is importance of fraud risk understanding. Understanding fraud risk is the foundation of an effective forensic strategy. It determines the scope of the investigation, the tools to be used, the stakeholders to be involved, and the reporting structure. Failing to identify fraud risks correctly can lead to incomplete or misleading conclusions, missed evidence, legal and reputational consequences. Now we will discuss types of fraud, risk recognized in FAIS 120. According to FAIS 120, fraud risks may relate to financial statement manipulation, e.g., overstating revenue, understating liabilities; asset misappropriation, e.g., theft of cash, inventory, fixed assets; corruption and bribery, e.g., kickbacks, favoritism in procurement; cyber fraud and data manipulation, conflict of interest and abuse of authority. Now we will discuss methodology for assessing fraud risk. As per FAIS 120, the forensic professional should 1. Gather preliminary information, internal control reports, past audit findings, whistleblower complaints, etc. 2. Engage with stakeholders, discuss concerns and insights with management, audit committees, compliance teams. 3. Evaluate internal controls, identify control weaknesses, or override risks. 4. Analyze the environment, assess corporate culture, governance structure, and incentive systems. 5. Develop hypotheses. What might have occurred and how? All of this should be documented as part of the engagement working papers. Next point is risk-based forensic approach. FAIS 120 promotes a risk-based approach, where higher fraud risk areas receive greater focus and testing. Professionals must use professional skepticism. Red flags must be investigated further, not ignored. Analytical procedures and data analytics may be deployed to detect anomalies. Now we will discuss red flags and indicators of fraud risk. Common red flags include significant and unexplained journal entries, employees living beyond their means, close vendor-employee relationships, lack of segregation of duties, high turnover in key roles. These indicators should prompt deeper investigation and possibly involve digital forensic tools. Next point is role of documentation under FAIS 120. The professional must document. Identified fraud risk factors, the rationale for selecting, procedures, any limitations or constraints encountered, communication made with stakeholders. This ensures that the process is transparent, defensible, and audit-ready. Next is key takeaways for CA students. Remember, fraud risk is not static. It evolves with changes in people, processes, and systems. Your role is not to accuse, but to analyze and report facts. A structured and well-documented fraud risk understanding is critical for building a strong case and delivering a reliable forensic report. In last closing statement, to conclude, FS 120. Understanding the fraud risk is about laying a robust foundation for any forensic engagement. It's not just about identifying the obvious, it's about questioning the overlooked. As future CAs, your ability to think critically and identify fraud risks early can make all the difference. Thank you for your attention. Stay curious, stay professional, and always follow the standard. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to our continuing journey through the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, FAIS, issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Myself, C.A. Bhupesh Khanna. Today, we explore a standard that is central to the forensic thought process, FAIS 140, Applying Hypotheses. This standard takes us from merely identifying issues to constructing and testing investigative theories. First one is Purpose of FAIS 140. This standard is designed to help forensic professionals develop logical hypotheses or scenarios about potential fraud, misconduct, or irregularities. Use these hypotheses to guide the investigation and evidence-gathering process. Apply a methodical and objective approach to testing and refining these hypotheses. Second, we are going to discuss what is a hypothesis in forensic accounting. In forensic terms, a hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a set of observed facts or red flags, which is then tested through evidence. Example, if large inventory write-offs coincide with changes in warehouse staff, a possible hypothesis is inventory misappropriation occurred during a period of weak controls following staffing changes. Next one is the hypothesis cycle. As per FAIS 140, this standard outlines a cyclical approach to hypothesis application. 1. Formulate initial hypotheses based on available facts, complaints, audit reports, or red flags. 2. Design procedures to test each hypothesis. 3. Gather evidence through interviews, documents, digital data, etc. 4. Analyze findings to accept, reject, or refine hypotheses. 5. Document reasoning and conclusions for each tested hypothesis. This cycle continues until a coherent and supportable conclusion is reached. Now we will discuss characteristics of a good forensic hypothesis. According to FAIS 140, a hypothesis should be plausible and grounded in the facts, specific and testable, flexible, capable of being modified as new information arises, free from bias, based on objective reasoning, not assumptions. Next is red flags and hypothesis formation. Red flags often serve as a trigger for hypothesis development. Example: red flag: a vendor has won all tenders in the past 12 months. Hypothesis: there may be collusion or favoritism in the procurement process. From there, procedures would be developed to test this hypothesis, such as reviewing bid documentation or analyzing vendor relationships. Now we will discuss tools and techniques for testing. Hypotheses FAIS 140 encourages use of data analytics and forensic tools, digital forensic techniques, document reviews, employee interviews, trend and ratio analysis, cross-functional collaboration, e.g., HR, IT, legal. Next is documentation requirements under FAIS 140. As with all FAIS standards, documentation is crucial. Professionals must record all formulated hypotheses and the reasoning behind them, testing procedures applied and evidence obtained, results of each test and the resulting conclusion, modifications to hypotheses, if any. This ensures transparency and supports the credibility of the final findings. Next is key takeaways for CA students. Hypotheses are not guesses. They are evidence-informed theories that guide investigation. Testing hypotheses ensures focus, efficiency, and objectivity. FAIS 140 teaches you to approach fraud investigations like a detective. Methodical, unbiased, and evidence-driven. In last closing statement, to conclude, FAIS 140, applying hypotheses, empowers you to think critically, act methodically, and investigate with precision. As future chartered accountants involved in forensic matters, this structured thinking will be your greatest tool in uncovering the truth. Thank you, and keep practicing the art and science of forensic inquiry. Good morning, friends. Welcome to another session in our series on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards FAIS issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Myself, CA Bhupesh Khanna. Today, we'll be discussing the fifth standard, FAIS 210, Engagement Objectives, a cornerstone for initiating any forensic assignment. First, we will discuss purpose of FAIS 210. This standard provides guidance to forensic professionals in defining, documenting, and agreeing upon the objectives of the forensic engagement. It ensures that all parties are aligned on the purpose of the engagement, the expected deliverables, the scope and limitations, and the roles and responsibilities of all stakeholders. Now we will discuss importance of setting engagement objectives. Clearly, defining engagement objectives is critical because it sets the direction and boundaries of the investigation, prevents scope creep and misunderstanding, ensures accountability and transparency, supports risk assessment, resource planning, and evidence strategy. In short, without clear objectives, forensic engagements risk becoming ambiguous, ineffective, or even legally problematic. Next is common forensic engagement objectives. As per FAIS 210, objectives may include investigating suspected financial fraud or embezzlement, assessing regulatory compliance failures, conducting background or integrity checks, supporting litigation or arbitration, quantifying losses or damages, tracing fund flows or assets, identifying internal control failures. The nature of the objective will determine the methodology, tools, and reporting structure used in the engagement. Now we are moving on to documenting objectives, engagement letter requirements. FAIS 210 mandates that the engagement objectives must be documented, typically in an engagement letter. The document should clearly specify scope of work, intended users of the report, for example, management, court, regulator, confidentiality clauses, limitations or exclusions, reporting format and timelines. This serves as the legal and operational foundation of the assignment. Now we are going to discuss stakeholder alignment. The forensic professional must ensure that the engagement objectives are agreed upon by all key stakeholders, including clients, regulators, legal counsel, and audit committees. Periodically reviewed in case the engagement evolves due to new findings or legal requirements. FAIS 210 stresses the need for ongoing communication and reconfirmation of objectives if circumstances change. Next is difference between audit and forensic objectives. CA students often confuse forensic objectives with audit objectives. Here's a simple comparison on the basis of following criteria number. 1. Focus. In audit objective, focus is on true and fair view, and in forensic engagement, it's its detection of fraud, irregularities. Number -2. Approach. Audit objective is risk-based sampling and forensic engagement is specific. Issue-based investigation. Number 3. Output. Under audit objective, output is audit report, and in forensic engagement, output is forensic report, often legally admissible. Number -4. Users. Under audit objective, users are shareholders, regulators, and in forensic engagement, users are clients, courts, regulators, legal counsel, etc. Always remember, audit assures, forensic investigates. Now we will discuss documentation and compliance. As per FAIS 210, forensic professionals must maintain documentation showing how the objectives were determined. Record any changes or clarifications during the engagement. Ensure objectives are aligned with applicable legal and regulatory frameworks, as discussed in FAIS 130. Next is key takeaways for CA students. Always start with clarity. Objectives drive everything else. Document the who, what, why, and how of the investigation. Engage in regular communication to keep the engagement on track. Ensure that objectives are not only clear, but also achievable and within the professional's competence. In lastly, it's a closing statement. To conclude, FAIS 210, engagement objectives is your guiding light in setting the right direction for any forensic assignment. Think of it as your investigation's compass. Without it, you're just wandering. Stay precise, stay professional, and always begin with the end in mind. Thank you, and see you in the next session as we move forward in mastering forensic excellence. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to our academic series on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Today, we will be discussing a crucial procedural standard, FAIS 220, Engagement Acceptance and Appointment. First, we will discuss purpose of FAIS 220. It provides detailed guidance on the preconditions a forensic professional must consider before accepting a forensic engagement. The objective is to ensure that the professional is competent and independent, the engagement is legally and ethically appropriate, and the client's expectations are clear and realistic. Second, we will discuss when should a forensic professional accept an engagement. According to FAIS 220, an engagement should only be accepted when the objective and scope of the assignment are clearly defined. The forensic professional is competent to undertake the assignment. There are no conflicts of interest or threats to independence. There is legal authority to perform the engagement. The client agrees to the terms of the engagement in writing. Now moving on to key pre-engagement considerations. Before accepting an engagement, the professional must assess nature of the matter, fraud, dispute, regulatory breach, etc. Applicable legal and regulatory framework. Purpose of the report: internal management, litigation, regulatory submission. Competency requirement, skills, resources, time frame. Possible threats to objectivity, such as prior involvement with the client. Example: if the professional was the auditor of the client during the period under investigation, this may create a threat to independence. Now, the most important point is engagement letter. A mandatory requirement. FAIS 220 mandates issuance of a written engagement letter before starting the assignment. This document should include engagement objective and scope, roles and responsibilities of both parties, timeline and fee arrangements, reporting deliverables, limitations, disclaimers, and legal authority, confidentiality clauses. It serves as a legally binding document protecting both the professional and the client. Now we are moving to re-evaluating acceptance. During engagement, FAIS 220 requires continuous evaluation of engagement conditions. If, during the course of the assignment, the scope changes drastically, new information causes a threat to independence, or the engagement becomes illegal or unethical, then the forensic professional should either redefine the engagement or consider withdrawal. Next is documentation under FAIS 220. The forensic accountant must maintain records of pre-engagement discussions, conflict checks and independence assessments, risk analysis, the signed engagement letter, any subsequent modifications or communications. It's time to practical illustration scenario. A company approaches a forensic accountant to investigate irregularities in payroll disbursements. Before accepting, the professional must clarify the specific time period and departments involved, determine whether the engagement is for internal action or legal prosecution, verify whether the professional or their firm has had prior roles with the HR or finance teams, draft and get the engagement letter signed before proceeding. Time for key takeaways for CA students. Never begin a forensic assignment without evaluating preconditions. Independence and competence are critical criteria. A well-drafted engagement letter is the foundation of professional protection and client clarity. Ethical considerations must always take precedence over commercial interests. In last closing statement, to conclude, FAIS 220, engagement, acceptance, and appointment teaches us that the strength of any forensic assignment lies in how well it is defined and agreed upon at the start. As future chartered accountants involved in investigative work, you must always be clear, ethical, and procedurally correct before accepting a forensic assignment. Thank you for your attention, and let's continue this journey into the depth and discipline of forensic accounting. Good morning, friends. Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to our ongoing study of the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the ICAI. Today, we will discuss an important standard that promotes interdisciplinary collaboration in forensic investigations, FAIS 230, using the work of an expert. First, we will discuss objective of FAIS 230. This standard provides guidance to forensic professionals when they need to rely on the work of external or internal experts during an investigation. These experts may be engaged due to specialized knowledge outside the forensic accountant's domain, technical, scientific, legal, or valuation expertise, or the need for objective and credible support for conclusions drawn in the report. Now we will discuss who is an expert under FAIS 230A's per the standard. An expert refers to a person or firm possessing specialized skills, knowledge, experience, or qualifications in a particular field other than forensic accounting. Examples of experts include IT professionals for digital forensics or cyber analysis, legal experts for interpretation of laws or contracts, valuation experts, engineers or technical consultants, handwriting or document examination experts, medical professionals in cases involving insurance or injury claims. Next point is, when should an expert be engaged? A forensic professional should consider engaging an expert when the matter involves complex technical issues. The professional lacks competence in a particular area. There's a need for specialist opinions to support the findings. Legal proceedings require independent expert opinions. Now it's time to discuss responsibilities of the forensic professional. Even when using an expert's work, FAIS 230 makes it clear that the forensic professional retains overall responsibility for the engagement. The professional must assess the competence, objectivity, and independence of the expert. Define and document the scope and purpose of the expert's work. Ensure that the expert's output is relevant, reliable, and sufficiently documented. Evaluate whether the expert's findings align with the forensic objectives. Simply relying on an expert's report without critical review and integration is not permitted. Next point is documentation requirements. FAIS 230 emphasizes maintaining proper documentation of the need and rationale for engaging an expert, communication with the expert, including instructions and scope. Assessment of the expert's qualifications and independence. Review and conclusions drawn from the expert's work. Disclaimers or qualifications made in the final forensic report, if relying on expert opinion. Now we will take an example for better understanding. In this case scenario, a forensic accountant is engaged to investigate inventory loss due to alleged pilferage in a factory. After preliminary review, it becomes clear that the matter involves tampering with surveillance systems and electronic access logs. In this case, the forensic professional may engage a cyber forensics expert to retrieve deleted CCTV logs, engage a security system consultant to evaluate system vulnerabilities. Their findings would be used to corroborate or refute the financial and operational irregularities under investigation. Next, we will discuss cautions and ethical considerations. Experts should be selected based on merit and suitability, not convenience or influence. Any conflict of interest must be declared and resolved. The expert must not assume the forensic accountant's responsibilities or issue conclusions beyond their scope. Confidentiality agreements should be in place when sharing client data. Now, a message or key takeaways for CA students. Forensic professionals often need to collaborate with subject matter experts. Engaging an expert does not shift accountability. The forensic accountant remains responsible. You must critically assess and integrate expert findings within your own analysis. Documentation, independence checks, and clear communication are essential under FAIS 230. Last but not the least, a closing statement. To summarize, FAIS 230, using the work of an expert is about knowing your limits and leveraging the strengths of others responsibly and ethically. It reinforces the idea that forensic accounting is not a solo exercise, but a collaborative and multidisciplinary process grounded in professional judgment and due diligence. Thank you for your attention. Keep sharpening both your technical and collaborative skills as future chartered accountants. See you in the next session. Good afternoon, friends. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to our educational series on the forensic accounting and investigation standards issued by the ICAI. Today's focus is a critical operational and communication-based standard, FAIS 240, Engaging with Agencies. This standard guides us on how forensic professionals should interact with various external agencies during the course of an investigation. First point is objective of FAIS 240. It provides a framework for effective, ethical, and professional engagement with external agencies. These agencies could be law enforcement, e.g. police, economic offenses wing, regulatory authorities, e.g. SEBI, SFIO, RBI, judicial or quasi-judicial bodies, other government departments, and sometimes private or investigative entities. The goal is to ensure that the interaction is transparent, legally compliant, and appropriately documented. Next, we will discuss common scenarios for agency engagement. As per FAIS 240, forensic professionals may engage with agencies in the following contexts: when the engagement is initiated by a regulatory or investigative agency, to seek information, records, or cooperation, to submit findings, reports, or expert opinions, during coordination with law enforcement for seizure, arrest, or interrogation. While testifying or deposing in legal forums, third area is key principles for agency interaction. Forensic professionals must adhere to the following principles while engaging with agencies. Professional conduct. Remain objective, respectful, and unbiased. Avoid making premature conclusions or speculative statements. Confidentiality and legal boundaries. Only share information legally permitted by the client and the engagement letter. Respect privileged or sensitive information. Authorization. Engage only when properly authorized by the client or as mandated by law. Documentation. Maintain clear documentation of all communication, submissions, and meetings with agencies. Next, we will discuss importance of engagement, letter and consent. FAIS 240 requires that consent from the client be taken before interacting with agencies, except where required by law or directed by a court or statutory authority. The engagement letter should specify whether communication with agencies is permitted, the scope and nature of such interaction, any reporting protocols. Next, we are going to discuss responsibilities of the forensic professional. The professional must understand the jurisdiction, authority, and relevance of the agency, coordinate properly without overstepping scope, communicate in a professional and neutral manner, ensure integrity of documents, and avoid misrepresentation. Be prepared to testify or explain findings, if required. Now, the main area of the standard is ethical considerations and risks. Do not act as a spokesperson for the client unless specifically instructed. Avoid providing legal opinions unless qualified and authorized. Never share unverified or incomplete data. Maintain a record trail of what was shared and discussed. Some important messages or key takeaways for CA students. Engaging with external agencies is common, but must be professionally and ethically managed. Always operate within the legal and contractual framework of the engagement. Document everything, from requests received to submissions made. Understand your role. You are an independent professional, not an agent or advocate. Time for some suggested student activities. Draft a mock communication letter to a regulatory authority. Review real-life cases where forensic professionals interacted with agencies, e.g., IL&FS, Yes Bank, Satyam. Conduct a role play of a forensic accountant testifying before a regulatory panel. In last closing statement for professional, to conclude, FAIS 240. Engaging with agencies reminds us that in forensic assignments, our role extends beyond analysis. We must also interact effectively and responsibly with regulatory, enforcement, and legal bodies. The key is to remain professional, objective, and legally compliant at every step. Thank you for joining this session, and stay tuned for the next standard as we continue to build your foundation in forensic excellence. Good morning, friends. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our educational series on the forensic accounting and investigation standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Today's session focuses on one of the most essential standards for maintaining transparency and professionalism throughout a forensic assignment. FAIS 250, Communication with Stakeholders. First, we will discuss the objective of FAIS 250. The primary objective of FAIS 250 is to provide a structured framework for clear, appropriate, timely, and legally compliant communication with all relevant stakeholders during a forensic accounting and investigation engagement. Stakeholders may include client management, audit committees or boards, legal counsel, regulators or enforcement authorities, other experts or parties involved in the investigation. Next, we are going to discuss scope of communication. FAIS 250 covers all forms of communication throughout the engagement. Initial scope clarification, periodic updates on progress, discussion of preliminary findings, submission of final reports, responses to stakeholder queries, disclaimers, qualifications, or legal limitations. Now we will discuss key principles of stakeholder communication. The forensic professional must ensure communication is, first, relevant and purpose-oriented. Tailor communication to the recipient's role, for example, legal versus management. Avoid unnecessary disclosures that may breach confidentiality or legal boundaries. Second, is timely and responsive. Keep stakeholders informed of significant developments or delays. Respond promptly to reasonable inquiries. Third, is professional and objective. Avoid emotive language, speculation, or accusations. Maintain neutrality, especially in adversarial situations. Fourth is clear and understandable. Use non-technical language where possible, especially for non-accounting stakeholders. Fifth is ethical and confidential. Share only information that is authorized, relevant, and necessary. Respect confidentiality obligations at all times. Next point is types of stakeholders and customization of communication. FAIS 250 encourages customizing communications based on the nature and authority of each stakeholder. Stakeholder and their communication considerations are as follows. First, client management. It is factual progress, procedural updates. Second, audit committee. It is high-level findings, risk exposure. Third, legal counsel. Alignment with legal strategy. Evidence protocols. Fourth, regulators. Factual accuracy. Format, completeness. Fifth, external experts. Clearly defined scope and interdependency. Now we are going to discuss documentation requirements. As per FAIS 250, all communications must be adequately documented, including meeting minutes or summaries, emails, letters, or reports sent, verbal updates with dates and topics recorded, written confirmations, clarifications, or rebuttals. Proper documentation helps to protect the professional in case of disputes or legal proceedings. Now we will understand the common pitfalls to avoid here. FAIS 250 warns against over-communication that may unintentionally share sensitive or confidential data, inconsistent communication leading to confusion or misinformation, verbal agreements without documentation, communication with unauthorized persons without proper clearance. It's time for practical example. Scenario: a forensic accountant is engaged to investigate fictitious vendor payments in a manufacturing company. The company's audit committee expects weekly updates, while the legal team wants a separate report for civil recovery proceedings. Application of FAIS 250. Create a structured communication plan based on stakeholder roles. Share a summarized dashboard of findings with the audit committee. Share detailed evidentiary findings with legal counsel, ensuring legal privilege is preserved. Maintain records of all stakeholder interactions. Next point is key takeaways for CA students and professionals. Effective communication is not just about what you say. It's also how, when, and to whom you say it. Customize, document, and verify communications with stakeholders. Adhere to ethical boundaries and avoid disclosing sensitive information unnecessarily. Good communication builds trust, reduces risk, and improves stakeholder cooperation. In last, a closing statement. To conclude, FAIS 250. Communication with stakeholders emphasizes that forensic professionals must not only conduct investigations diligently, but also communicate findings effectively and responsibly. Your ability to manage stakeholder expectations and legal sensitivities through proper communication can determine the overall success of the engagement. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our structured learning series on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the ICAI. Today, we are focusing on a crucial foundational standard, FAIS 310, Planning the Assignment. Proper planning is the backbone of any successful forensic engagement, and FAIS 310 lays down the framework for how this must be approached professionally, systematically, and effectively. First, we will discuss objective of FAIS 310. It aims to ensure that every forensic engagement is adequately and effectively planned to meet the agreed-upon objectives, within the scope and constraints provided by the client and legal framework. This standard outlines the procedures, considerations, and documentation necessary during the planning stage, which ultimately shapes the efficiency, quality, and credibility of the forensic assignment. Next, we will discuss key elements of planning under FAIS 310. It specifies several key components that a forensic professional should consider when planning an assignment. First, understanding the assignment objectives. What are the suspected frauds, disputes, or irregularities involved? What are the client's expectations from the investigation? Second, defining scope and limitations. What areas or transactions are to be covered? Are there any limitations on access to data, personnel, or resources? Third, assessing risks and challenges. Consider potential legal, reputational, data integrity, and access-related risks. Identify any conflict of interest or independence issues. Fourth, team selection and resource allocation. Choose a team with the right mix of skills, such as accounting, IT, legal, and industry knowledge. Determine timeframes, responsibilities, and escalation matrix. Fifth, identification of applicable laws, standards, or regulations. Determine which legal provisions, compliance requirements, and standards may be applicable to the case. Sixth, formulating preliminary hypotheses. Frame initial working hypotheses based on the information available and likely fraud patterns. New point is planning documentation. As per FAIS 310, the planning process should be formally documented. The documentation should include engagement scope and objectives, constraints and assumptions, identified risks and mitigation plans, strategy for evidence collection and analysis, time schedules and deliverables, reporting structure and communication plan. This documentation not only guides the engagement, but also acts as a defense in case of legal scrutiny. Now we will discuss coordination with stakeholders and legal advisors. During planning, the forensic professional should engage with client representatives, internal legal counsel, external advisors. If required, this ensures alignment and helps identify any jurisdictional or compliance issues early in the engagement. Next is ethical and legal considerations in planning. FAIS 310 mandates that forensic professionals must maintain independence and objectivity, respect confidentiality from the start of the planning process, ensure compliance with applicable laws, e.g., data protection laws, Avoid any planning actions that could be construed as prejudiced or biased. Now an example scenario for you. Scenario: a company suspects manipulation of inventory records across 3 warehouses. You are engaged as a forensic professional. Planning as per FAIS 310 would include reviewing inventory movement trends and historical reports, defining the time frame and locations for the investigation, assessing data availability, physical stock versus ERP, forming a team with forensic accountants and inventory specialists, identifying relevant documentation, purchase orders, dispatch records, GRNs, documenting the initial plan, and obtaining management approval. Now time to discuss importance of planning in forensic assignments without proper planning. Investigations may go off scope. Vital evidence may be overlooked. Deadlines may be missed. Legal compliance may be compromised. Stakeholder confidence may erode. Thus, planning is not just a best practice. It's a requirement of professional diligence. Now, key takeaways for CA students and professionals. FAIS 310 underscores the necessity of structured and documented planning. Planning should be strategic, not mechanical. Adapt to the nature of the fraud and the legal landscape. Communicate proactively with clients and advisors during the planning stage. Always ensure that your planning aligns with legal, professional, and ethical standards. Closing statement. To conclude, FAIS 310. Planning the assignment reinforces that a successful forensic engagement begins with smart, structured, and well-documented planning. As future forensic professionals, your ability to plan effectively will distinguish your work in terms of efficiency, accuracy, and legal defensibility. Thank you for your attention. Good morning, and welcome to another insightful session on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the ICAI. Today, we will cover a core pillar of forensic investigations, FAIS 320, Evidence and Documentation. In forensic engagements, the credibility of the conclusions rests entirely on how well the evidence is gathered, analyzed, and documented. This standard guides us on precisely how to do that. First, we will discuss Objective of FAIS 320. This standard aims to ensure that forensic professionals collect, evaluate, maintain, and document evidence in a manner that supports their findings, withstands scrutiny, and complies with professional and legal requirements. Next is Importance of Evidence in Forensic Assignments. Evidence forms the foundation of all conclusions and reports in forensic engagements. The quality, relevance, and admissibility of evidence often determine the outcome of legal proceedings or internal decisions. Types of evidence in forensic investigations include financial records, emails and communications, contracts and agreements, system logs and audit trails, interviews and witness statements, physical or digital artifacts. Next area is Principles for Handling Evidence under FAIS 320. Standard prescribes the following key principles for managing evidence. First, relevance and reliability. Evidence should directly support the scope and objectives of the engagement. Professionals must assess whether the evidence is complete, authentic, and accurate. Second, integrity and preservation. Maintain the original form of the evidence to the extent possible. Use appropriate tools to prevent data tampering or destruction. Ensure continuity of custody. Third, legal admissibility. Understand the legal framework regarding what constitutes admissible evidence. Avoid collecting evidence in ways that violate privacy laws or court procedures. Fourth, chain of custody. Record every movement or handling of evidence to establish authenticity and prevent claims of manipulation. Maintain logs with timestamps, handlers, purpose of access, and location of storage. Fifth, confidentiality. Handle sensitive evidence with strict adherence to confidentiality protocols. Store documentation securely, physical or digital, with access controls. Now it's time for documentation requirements under FAIS 320. As per this standard, all forensic professionals must maintain comprehensive and contemporaneous documentation of nature and source of the evidence, date and method of collection, persons involved in collection, examination and custody, tools and techniques used for analysis, observations and inferences drawn, limitations, if any. Tip: your working papers should be clear enough that another qualified professional could understand the steps taken and reach similar conclusions. Next point is legal and ethical considerations. FAIS 320 places strong emphasis on legal compliance and professional ethics, such as avoiding coercion or misrepresentation to obtain evidence, respecting data protection laws and client confidentiality, ensuring that digital evidence is forensically sound and legally defensible. Now we will discuss a real-world application. Scenario: a company suspects fictitious vendor payments. As a forensic professional, you are tasked with gathering and analyzing relevant proof. How FAIS 320 applies. Extract vendor payment reports from the ERP system using forensically sound tools. Capture system metadata, for example, timestamps, user IDs. Interview procurement staff with signed consent forms. Store evidence in encrypted folders with access logs. Document all procedures in an indexed evidence file. This approach aligns with best practices and legal defensibility as required by FAIS 320. Next point is tools and techniques. FAIS 320 does not mandate specific tools, but expects professionals to use appropriate and validated forensic techniques. These may include disk imaging and data carving tools, for example, EnCase, FTK, document examination techniques, e.g. ink and handwriting analysis, email and metadata extraction tools, evidence tagging and chain of custody logs. Now key takeaways for CA students and professionals. Evidence must be relevant, reliable, and legally defensible. Document everything, from collection to conclusion. Chain of custody and confidentiality are non-negotiable. Use professional skepticism when analyzing evidence. Proper documentation protects both your findings and your professional liability. In last conclusion, to summarize, FAIS 320, evidence and documentation, establishes the bedrock of a professionally executed forensic engagement. It ensures that every conclusion you reach is backed by proper, traceable, and admissible evidence. Remember, in the courtroom or boardroom, your report is only as strong as the evidence that supports it, and how well you have documented it. Thanks you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session in our ongoing series on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the ICAI. Today, we focus on FAIS 330, Conducting Work Procedures, which deals with the actual execution phase of a forensic assignment. The core activity, where evidence is gathered, analyzed, and interpreted using structured techniques. FAIS 330 outlines the responsibilities of forensic professionals in carrying out investigative tasks in a manner that is professional, systematic, and aligned with the engagement plan. First topic is Objective of FAIS 330. The primary objective of FAIS 330 is to ensure that work procedures are executed appropriately and effectively so that findings are based on sufficient and appropriate evidence. This standard serves as a guide to apply forensic techniques, validate findings, and maintain investigative rigor throughout the assignment. Next topic is Scope of Work Procedures. AF AIS 330 outlines the range of work procedures that a forensic professional may be required to perform. Data gathering and validation, interviews and interrogations, digital evidence collection, financial and transactional analysis, background checks and link analysis, behavioral and circumstantial analysis. Each procedure must be purposeful, i.e., tied to the objectives, justifiable, i.e., not fishing expeditions, documented, i.e., reproducible and reviewable. Now we will discuss key principles for conducting procedures. First, professional judgment and skepticism. Professionals must apply critical thinking and not accept facts at face value. Second, alignment with engagement. Plan work procedures must follow the scope, objectives, and methodology outlined in the planning stage. FAIS 310. Third, dynamic and adaptive execution procedures should remain flexible. If new findings emerge, professionals should re-evaluate and adapt their methods accordingly. Fourth, objectivity and independence. The forensic professional must avoid bias and ensure neutrality in execution and documentation. Next, we are going to discuss examples of work procedures. Here are common techniques and how they are applied. First, document examination. Analyze financial statements, contracts, invoices, or emails for alterations, irregularities, and anomalies. Second, digital forensics. Examine system logs, recover deleted files, or trace internet usage using forensic tools. Third, transactional analysis. Identify suspicious transactions, round-tripping, layering of funds, and unusual journal entries. Fourth, interviewing stakeholders. Conduct structured interviews with employees or third parties, ensuring neutrality and proper documentation. Fifth, data correlation and triangulation. Cross-verify financial data with physical evidence or third-party confirmations. Next topic is documentation during procedures. FAIS 330 emphasizes the need to maintain detailed working papers, checklists and test matrices, interview notes and transcripts, audit trail of each step and decision. All procedures and findings must be traceable, reviewable, and reproducible. Now we will discuss legal and ethical considerations. When conducting procedures, forensic professionals must respect legal boundaries and data privacy norms, avoid entrapment or coercive tactics during interviews, maintain chain of custody when handling physical or digital evidence, ensure procedural fairness in dealing with all parties. It's time for practical example. Scenario: a company suspects insider trading based on information leaks before earnings announcements. FAIS 330 in action. Obtain and review internal communication logs and access records. Identify unusual trading patterns via analysis of trading data. Interview employees with access to sensitive information. Correlate data access timelines with trading events. Maintain records of all findings with corresponding supporting evidence. Now it's key takeaways for professionals. FAIS 330 is about doing the work right, following a clear, disciplined process. The execution of procedures must be systematic, justified, and transparent. Forensic professionals must balance investigative agility with methodological integrity. The standard enforces accountability and traceability at every step of the investigation. Time for conclusion. To conclude, FAIS 330. Conducting work procedures transforms your forensic plan into actionable steps that yield credible, professional, and legally defensible results. Whether it's examining documents, conducting interviews, or analyzing data, your ability to perform and document these procedures will define the quality and reliability of your forensic engagements. As aspiring forensic professionals, always remember, thoroughness, discipline, and objectivity are your greatest tools. Thank you for joining this session. Stay tuned as we continue exploring other FAIS standards. Welcome, everyone, to today's focused learning session on forensic accounting and investigation standards. In this session, we will explore FAIS 340, conducting interviews, one of the most critical components in forensic investigations. Interviews often provide the missing pieces to a complex fraud puzzle, offering not just facts, but also behavioral cues and contradictions that support evidence gathered through other procedures. First, we will discuss objective of FAIS 340. This standard aims to guide forensic professionals in planning, conducting, and documenting interviews in a structured, lawful, ethical, and effective manner. The standard emphasizes eliciting relevant and reliable information, maintaining professionalism and objectivity, avoiding coercive, misleading, or unlawful techniques. Second topic is purpose of conducting interviews in forensic engagements. Forensic interviews serve several key purposes: to gather first-hand information from witnesses or suspects, to corroborate or contradict documentary or digital evidence, to observe behavioral indicators such as evasion, inconsistency, or deception, to build a narrative and timeline of events, to assess motives and opportunity. Next, we will discuss structure of a forensic interview, as per FAIS 340. It recommends a structured three-phase approach. A. Pre-interview planning. Identify the interviewee's role, relevance, and access to facts. Determine the objective of the interview. Gather and review background material in advance. Select a neutral and interruption-free location. Prepare customized questions tailored to the interviewee. Obtain necessary authorizations and consent, especially for recordings. B. Conducting the interview. Establish rapport and explain the purpose and scope. Ask open-ended, non-leading questions. Listen actively, take structured notes, and observe body language. Avoid coercion, threats, or suggestive questioning. Stay professional, calm, and impartial throughout. Clarify inconsistencies without confrontation. C. Post-interview procedures. Prepare a summary or transcript of the interview. Cross-reference statements with other evidence. Maintain confidentiality and chain of custody for interview records. Evaluate whether further interviews or re-interviews are required. Now we will discuss types of interviewees. FAIS 340 classifies interviewees as witnesses, individuals who observed or are aware of relevant facts. Informants, individuals offering leads or red flags. Suspects, individuals directly or indirectly involved in misconduct. Each category requires a differentiated approach, with higher caution in suspect interviews regarding legal rights, tone, and evidence presentation. Next area of discussion is legal and ethical considerations. FAIS 340 emphasizes strict adherence to lawful and ethical boundaries. Consent for recordings and notes must be obtained. Right to remain silent must be respected, particularly for suspects. Privacy rights and confidentiality must be upheld. Professionals must avoid inducing, misleading, or intimidating the interviewee. Interviews that violate ethical norms may render findings inadmissible or lead to professional liability. Next point is documentation and record-keeping. Documentation of interviews should include date, time, and place, identity of interviewers and interviewee, interview outline and questions, summary or transcript of responses, behavioral observations, sign-off or verification by interviewee, if appropriate. All records must be secure, confidential, and retrievable, in line with the standards under FAIS 320, Evidence and Documentation. Time for practical tips for interviewers. Remain non-judgmental. The goal is to gather facts, not to confront. Use the funnel technique. Start broad, then narrow. Observe nonverbal behavior for signs of stress, evasion, or deception. Confirm understanding by paraphrasing key responses. Stay neutral, even if the evidence points to culpability. Now it's key takeaways for professionals. FAIS 340 provides a robust framework for professional, structured, and ethical interviewing. Interviews must be planned, executed, and documented with rigor and neutrality. Interviews can uncover facts unavailable through other procedures. Poorly conducted interviews can jeopardize the credibility and admissibility of findings. In conclusion, FAIS 340. Conducting interviews equips forensic professionals with structured techniques to derive critical insights directly from people involved. Remember, it's not just what questions you ask, but also how and when you ask them that makes the difference in uncovering truth in forensic investigations. Use FAIS 340 as your guide to ensure that your interviews are legally compliant, professionally sound, and evidentially robust. Thank you for joining this session. Stay tuned. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to today's session in our structured learning series on the FAIS issued by the ICAI. In this session, we will deep dive into FAIS 350, Review and Supervision, a standard that ensures quality, accountability, and consistency in forensic assignments. This standard emphasizes a crucial but often overlooked aspect: the oversight and supervision of that work to ensure it is aligned with professional standards, engagement objectives, and ethical conduct. First point is objective of FAIS 350. The primary objective is to ensure that all forensic work is subject to appropriate levels of supervision and independent review, thereby enhancing the credibility, accuracy, and defensibility of the investigation findings. Next is applicability. This standard applies to all forensic engagements, irrespective of the size of the assignment, the number of personnel involved, the nature of the entity or client. Now we will discuss key components of review and supervision. FAIS 350 defines two critical activities. First, supervision. Supervision refers to guiding junior team members in their tasks, monitoring progress and alignment with the engagement plan, ensuring compliance with relevant laws, standards, and ethics, providing clarifications on technical or procedural issues. Supervision must be ongoing, not just at the beginning or end of an assignment. Second, review. Review includes evaluating working papers, evidence gathered, and conclusions drawn, checking adherence to planning documents and standard procedures, ensuring documentation is complete, accurate, and traceable, identifying errors, gaps, or inconsistencies in work performed. The review may be internal, within the team, or external peer-based for independent assurance. Next topic is responsibilities of team members. Engagement leader, responsible for overall quality control, strategic oversight, and approving final deliverables. Team members must perform assigned work diligently and cooperate in supervision and review. Supervisors, reviewers, must maintain independence in their assessment and ensure work is free of bias, technical lapses, and documentation gaps. Now we will discuss methods of supervision and review. Some key tools and techniques include checklists and supervision logs, stage-wise reviews, planning, execution, reporting, regular team meetings to monitor progress, review notes or memos highlighting deficiencies, feedback and corrective actions. Reviews may be formal, documented, or informal, discussions, and coaching, but must always be evident and auditable. Next point is legal and ethical accountability. The standard also focuses on accountability. If supervision or review is inadequate, the entire assignment may be compromised, leading to legal exposure, professional misconduct, or loss of credibility. Reviewers must be objective and must escalate issues of fraud, non-cooperation, or data manipulation if found during oversight. Confidentiality must be maintained during supervision and review processes, especially when dealing with sensitive findings. Time for practical scenario. Scenario: a forensic team is investigating a bribery case. A junior team member misinterprets vendor payment data, leading to a flawed conclusion in the draft report. Application of FAIS 350. The engagement leader reviews the working papers and identifies the discrepancy. A clarification session is held with the team member. The data is reanalyzed and corrected. The final report is amended and reviewed again before submission. Result: potential reputational damage and factual errors are avoided because of an effective review process. Now we will discuss documentation requirements under FAIS 350. Proper documentation is essential to prove that review and supervision occurred. This includes review checklists and sign-offs, comments, queries, and resolutions, revisions made based on review observations, supervisory notes, and decisions. This documentation is crucial in peer reviews, quality reviews, and legal proceedings, if any arise. Time for key takeaways. Supervision and review are not optional. They are critical quality control mechanisms. Engagement leaders must proactively manage the quality and direction of forensic work. The review process must ensure that procedures were followed, evidence is sufficient, and conclusions are valid. Proper documentation of supervision and review ensures transparency, accountability, and compliance with ICAI's standards. Now conclusion. In conclusion, FAIS 350. Review and supervision is a cornerstone of forensic quality assurance. It ensures that every opinion, conclusion, and recommendation stands on a foundation of diligent oversight and structured validation. As forensic professionals, our work must not only be correct, it must also be reviewed and verified to be credible, defensible, and compliant. Thank you for your attention. Welcome everyone to today's session on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards issued by the ICAI. Our focus today is on FAIS 360, testifying before a competent authority, a standard that equips forensic professionals with the responsibilities and framework for providing testimony in legal, regulatory, or disciplinary proceedings. As professionals engaged in forensic accounting, your findings may be subjected to scrutiny in courts or other judicial forums. This standard ensures that your testimony is credible, ethical, and legally compliant. First point is objective of FAIS 360. The core objective is to provide guidance to forensic professionals when they are called upon to testify as expert witnesses or factual witnesses, present opinions, evidence, or findings in legal or regulatory forums, assist competent authorities in understanding forensic conclusions. This standard ensures that such testimony is objective, unbiased, and within the boundaries of professional competence. Next point is definition of a competent authority. As per FAIS 360, a competent authority includes courts of law, tribunals or quasi-judicial bodies, regulatory agencies, e.g., CB, SFIO, CBI, ED, disciplinary bodies such as ICAI's Disciplinary Committee. Any authority vested with the power to summon and examine forensic professionals falls under this category. Now we will discuss role of the forensic professional in testimony. A forensic professional may be summoned as a fact witness, testifying based on direct knowledge or observation, as an expert witness, providing opinions based on specialized knowledge and analysis. Key responsibilities include presenting facts clearly and truthfully, explaining the basis of conclusions drawn, defending methodology and approach adopted, responding to questions from both the authority and opposing counsel. Next point is principles to follow while testifying. FAIS 360 outlines fundamental principles for professionals testifying before a competent authority. First, independence and objectivity. Testimony must be free from bias, external influence, or pressure. Professionals must avoid advocacy for any party. Second, truthfulness and accuracy. Statements must be factually correct and complete. Omission or exaggeration may lead to legal or disciplinary consequences. Third, professional competence. Opinions must be confined to areas within the professional's expertise. Avoid speculation or offering conclusions beyond available evidence. Fourth, ethical conduct. Confidentiality must be maintained unless legally required to disclose. Professionals must not mislead the authority, intentionally or otherwise. Next point is preparation before testifying. FAIS 360 stresses adequate preparation, including reviewing the entire case file, work papers, and evidence, understanding the relevant laws or standards applied, preparing for cross-examination and rebuttal, clarifying scope of engagement and limitations in the report. Next point is courtroom demeanor and communication. Testifying requires a professional demeanor. Dress formally and be punctual. Use simple, non-technical language. Speak calmly, clearly, and confidently. Do not argue or engage emotionally, especially under cross-examination. If unsure, state clearly, "I do not know," or "This is beyond my scope." Next point is legal and professional risks. Improper testimony can result in perjury or contempt proceedings, disqualification as an expert witness, disciplinary action by ICAI, damage to personal and professional credibility. Hence, adherence to FAIS 360 is not just ethical, but also legally protective. Next point is documentation and disclosure. Maintain proper records of testimony provided. Disclose any conflicts of interest, if present. Avoid unauthorized disclosures of confidential information. All communications with the authority must be transparent and traceable. Now, key takeaways. FAIS 360 ensures forensic professionals are legally prepared, professionally competent, and ethically sound when appearing before authorities. Testimony must be factual, unbiased, and well-prepared. Professionals must remain within the scope of their expertise and avoid speculative opinions. Clear, calm, and professional communication enhances credibility and the value of expert testimony. In last conclusion, to conclude, FAIS 360. Testifying before a competent authority is about presenting yourself not only as a technical expert, but also as a credible, ethical, and impartial witness. Your testimony may shape the outcome of legal proceedings, and hence it carries both honor and responsibility. Master this standard to ensure you represent both the facts and the profession with utmost integrity and professionalism. Thank you for your attention. Continue learning and stay compliant with ICAI's forensic standards to deliver high-value, reliable forensic service. Greetings and welcome to our continuing learning series on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Today's session focuses on FAIS 410, applying data analysis, a crucial standard for integrating analytical techniques and technology-driven methods into forensic assignments. As financial fraud becomes more sophisticated, forensic professionals must evolve from manual review to strategic data analytics to uncover patterns, anomalies, and red flags. This standard provides the guidance framework for that transition. First point is Objective of FAIS 410. The objective of FAIS 410 is to guide forensic professionals in the use of data analysis tools, techniques, and methodologies to identify irregularities, support hypotheses, corroborate or challenge assertions, provide meaningful insights during investigations. It promotes structured and defensible use of data for forensic decision-making. Second point is Applicability. FAIS 410 applies to all forensic engagements where electronic or structured data is available, for example, ERP logs, bank statements, transaction records. Analytical insights can be derived using statistical or logical techniques. The nature of the engagement warrants objective and data-backed conclusions. Next point is key aspects of applying data analysis. First, data identification and collection. Identify relevant data sources, e.g., accounting systems, emails, audit logs, vendor files. Assess the completeness, reliability, and accessibility of such data. Ensure data is collected in a forensically sound manner, maintaining chain of custody, second data cleansing and preparation. Remove duplicates, handle missing fields, normalize formats. Structure unstructured data, for example from emails or PDFs, where necessary. Document assumptions and transformation steps. Clearly, third, selection of analytical techniques. Depending on the case, various techniques may be applied. Trend analysis, Benford's law, ratio analysis, link or relationship mapping, outlier detection, sequence or gap analysis, fourth, use of technology. Tools professionals may use: spreadsheets, for example, Excel with Power Query. Data analytics platforms, for example, IDEA, ACL, Power BI. Forensic software, for example, EnCase, FTK for digital trails. Scripts, for example, Python, R for custom analyses. The chosen tools must be fit for purpose, scalable, and auditable. Next, we will discuss documentation requirements. Proper documentation must include source of data and how it was obtained, tools and methods used, limitations or assumptions applied, findings and how they support or challenge the hypothesis. All analysis should be replicable, meaning a third party should be able to arrive at the same findings using the same data and logic. Next point is key considerations. Ensure data privacy and confidentiality at all stages. Validate findings with triangulation, for example, confirm with other sources. Be mindful of false positives and over-reliance on patterns. Avoid confirmation bias while analyzing data to support a hypothesis. Time for illustrative example. Scenario: a forensic audit into vendor payments at a public sector enterprise reveals an unusual increase in payments to a newly registered vendor over the past 6 months. Application of FAIS 410. Extract data from the payment module and vendor master. Perform trend analysis and vendor aging. Use Benford's law on payment amounts to detect manipulation. Apply network analysis to link the vendor's directors with employees of the organization. Outcome: evidence of collusion and overbilling is discovered through data analysis, strengthening the case. Next is benefits of data analysis in forensic assignments. Enhances efficiency by focusing on high-risk areas, improves accuracy and objectivity of findings, enables detection of hidden patterns and relationships, strengthens the evidentiary value of forensic conclusions. Now it's responsibilities of the forensic professional Under FAIS 410, the professional must ensure the data analysis aligns with the overall engagement objectives. Maintain professional skepticism throughout. Clearly communicate findings arising from analysis in the final report. Seek expert support when complex statistical or digital tools are required. Last point is conclusion. To conclude, FAIS 410, applying data analysis, is a forward-looking standard that empowers forensic professionals to turn data into actionable intelligence. In the age of digital records and complex fraud schemes, mastering data analysis is not optional. It is essential. Always remember, data in itself is just numbers. The value lies in how we interpret, test, and present it to support forensic findings in a credible, ethical, and defensible manner. Welcome to this focused learning session on forensic accounting and investigation standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. In today's digital age, the majority of financial and operational data is stored electronically. Accordingly, forensic professionals must be equipped to discover, analyze, and preserve digital evidence effectively. Our topic today is FAIS 420, Evidence Discovery in Digital Domain, a pivotal standard that guides forensic practitioners in identifying, acquiring, handling, and analyzing electronic data during forensic engagements. First point is Objective of FAIS 420. It aims to provide guidance on locating and retrieving digital evidence relevant to an investigation, maintaining the integrity, authenticity, and chain of custody of digital evidence, ensuring that digital evidence is forensically sound and admissible before a competent authority. The standard promotes ethical, systematic, and legally compliant digital forensic practices. Second is Scope of Application. FAIS 420 applies when the forensic engagement involves electronic data, such as emails, system logs, mobile data, databases, cloud records, etc. The professional is required to extract or review electronically stored information, ESI. Digital footprints or cyber trails are part of the investigative process. Third point is Sources of digital evidence. Common digital sources include desktops, laptops, servers, email systems and cloud storage, enterprise resource planning, ERP systems, mobile devices and removable media, e.g., USBs, SD cards, messaging applications and social media, network logs, firewalls, routers. Digital evidence is often volatile and easily alterable, hence special protocols must be followed. Fourth point is Key Principles under FAIS 420A. Integrity and chain of custody. Maintain originality of evidence. Create and preserve bit-by-bit forensic images. Document every step. Who accessed what, when, how, and why. Be use of forensic tools. Employ industry-standard tools, e.g. FTK, NCASE, X-Ways, Autopsy. Validate tools for accuracy and reliability. Record software versions and settings used. C. Admissibility. Ensure evidence is collected legally, with appropriate authorization or consent. Maintain records that demonstrate authenticity and relevance. Avoid contamination or loss of data. D. Confidentiality and data protection. Respect data, privacy laws, and client confidentiality. Isolate sensitive information not relevant to the investigation. Comply with applicable provisions under the IT Act, 2000 and other regulations. Next is Key Steps in Digital Evidence Discovery 1. Planning and scoping. Identify target devices, systems, and custodians of data. Determine the type and time frame of data required. 2. Preservation. Isolate devices from the network. Perform forensic imaging without altering metadata. 3-point collection. Extract data using verified forensic tools. O. Maintain proper documentation and hash verification. 4-point analysis. O. Recover deleted files, hidden folders, email trails. O. Analyze timestamps, metadata, login patterns, keyword hits. 5. Reporting O. Present findings, clearly with timelines, file names, user actions. O. Link digital activity to relevant persons and events. Time for practical illustration, scenario. A company suspects unauthorized leakage of confidential financial information through employee emails. Application of FAIS 420. A forensic professional images the suspected employee's system. Uses forensic software to extract deleted emails and keyword search terms. Recovers attachments and tracks file transfers through USB logs. Ensures all actions are documented with hash values and timestamps. Outcome: conclusive digital evidence establishes the misconduct, aiding in disciplinary action and potential legal proceedings. Next is challenges and risk mitigation. Risk: data alteration or loss. Mitigation: use write blockers. Maintain forensic copies. Risk: unauthorized access to evidence. Mitigation: maintain access logs, use encryption. Risk: misinterpretation of metadata. Mitigation: seek expert assistance where required and corroborate with other sources. Next is responsibilities of the forensic professional under FAIS 420. The professional must understand the limitations of tools and techniques used. Stay updated with emerging technologies and threats. Avoid exceeding the authorized scope of data extraction. Ensure all findings are replicable and explainable. Last is conclusion. To conclude, FAIS 420. Evidence discovery in digital domain is central to modern forensic practice. As frauds and malpractices increasingly exploit digital platforms, forensic professionals must build competence in data acquisition, analysis, and preservation of electronic evidence. Following FAIS 420 ensures that the evidence stands up to legal scrutiny and that the forensic process is both scientific and ethical. Thanks you. Welcome to this session on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards FAIS, issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India ICAI. Today, we will focus on FAIS 430, Loans and Borrowings, an important standard that guides forensic professionals in the examination and verification of loans and borrowings during forensic assignments. Given the frequent misuse or misrepresentation of loans in frauds and financial manipulations, this standard is critical to ensure accurate assessment and reporting. First, we will discuss Objective of FAIS 430. It provides guidelines to forensic professionals to understand the nature and terms of loans and borrowings, verify the authenticity and compliance of loan transactions, identify possible irregularities, misuse, or fraud related to loans and borrowings, ensure proper disclosure and classification in financial records during investigations. New, we will discuss scope of FAIS 430. This standard applies to forensic engagements involving investigation of loan agreements, promissory notes, repayment schedules, analysis of loan disbursements and receipts, examination of related party loans, intercorporate borrowings and financial institution loans, verification of security or collateral against loans, situations where loans are suspected to be used for money laundering, diversion, or concealment. Next point is key elements to examine a documentation and terms. Review loan agreements for clarity on terms, principal, interest rate, tenure, repayment schedule. Check for proper authorization and approvals within the organization. Verify existence of supporting documentation, such as board resolutions, sanction letters, and correspondence. B. Loan disbursement and utilization. Trace the flow of funds from lender to borrower. Examine bank statements and transaction records to confirm actual disbursement. Assess whether loan proceeds were used for stated purposes or diverted. C. Repayment and interest. Analyze repayment schedules versus actual payments. Check interest calculations for accuracy and compliance with terms. Identify irregularities such as delayed payments, defaults, or unexplained write-offs. D. Related party and off-balance sheet loans. Scrutinize transactions with related parties for preferential terms or non-compliance. Identify unrecorded borrowings or guarantees that may impact the financial position. Now we will discuss analytical procedures. Perform reconciliation of loan balances with lender statements. Use trend analysis to detect abnormal repayment patterns or ballooning balances. Apply ratio analysis, e.g., debt to equity, to evaluate financial stress or manipulation. Compare interest rates with market benchmarks for reasonableness. Next point is legal and regulatory considerations. Ensure compliance with applicable laws such as the Companies Act, RBI guidelines, and income tax provisions related to loans and borrowings. Understand implications of willful default, fraudulent transactions, or non-disclosure. Coordinate with legal advisors for potential litigation or recovery proceedings. Now we will discuss documentation and reporting. Forensic professionals must document all evidence gathered, including loan documents, bank records, and communication. Clearly report any inconsistencies, suspected fraud, or non-compliance. Provide an objective opinion on the authenticity, valuation, and recoverability of loans. Now time for practical example. Scenario: during a forensic investigation, a company's books show large intercompany loans without proper disclosures. Application of FAIS 430. Obtain and verify loan agreements between group companies. Trace actual fund movements through bank statements. Evaluate if the loans were used for intended business purposes or diverted. Identify potential manipulation in the financial statements due to off-balance sheet loans. Now we will discuss responsibilities of the forensic professional. Maintain professional skepticism and independence. Ensure a comprehensive review covering all aspects of loans and borrowings. Communicate findings clearly and with sufficient evidence. Keep abreast of updates in laws and accounting standards impacting loans. In last summary, FAIS 430 equips forensic professionals with a structured approach to investigate loans and borrowings thoroughly and professionally. Given the complexity and potential for fraud in these transactions, adherence to this standard ensures integrity and reliability in forensic assignments. Thank you for your attention, and let's continue this journey into the depth and discipline of forensic accounting. Welcome to today's session on the Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, FAIS, issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India ICAI. We will focus on FAIS 510, Reporting Results, which is a critical phase of any forensic engagement. The quality and clarity of the forensic report can significantly influence the outcomes in legal, regulatory, or internal investigations. First, we will discuss objective of FAIS 510. It aims to provide clear guidelines on structuring and presenting forensic findings effectively and professionally, ensuring that the report is accurate, objective, and understandable to all stakeholders, supporting conclusions with sufficient and appropriate evidence, maintaining confidentiality and legal compliance in reporting. Now we will discuss scope of FAIS 510. This standard applies when a forensic professional prepares reports or communications conveying the results of forensic accounting and investigation engagements, responds to queries or requests for clarification from clients, regulators, or courts, provides expert opinions or summaries for decision-makers. Next point is components of the forensic report. A well-prepared forensic report typically includes title and identification, clear mention of the report type, date and engagement details, executive summary, brief overview of the key findings and conclusions, scope and objectives, description of the engagement purpose and boundaries, methodology, explanation of procedures and standards applied during the investigation, findings, detailed factual observations, supported by data and evidence, analysis, interpretation of findings with reference to relevant laws, standards, and context, conclusions, clear and unbiased statements based on the analysis, recommendations, where appropriate, suggestions for corrective action or further investigation, limitations, any constraints or assumptions impacting the results, appendices, supporting documents, data extracts, and evidence summaries. Now we will discuss key reporting principles. Accuracy and objectivity. Report all relevant facts without distortion or omission. Clarity. Use clear, concise language, avoiding jargon to ensure accessibility for non-technical readers. Confidentiality. Respect privacy and confidentiality agreements. Disclose information only as authorized. Legal compliance. Adhere to applicable laws, regulations, and professional ethics. Traceability. Ensure all statements can be linked back to documented evidence and work papers. Next point is types of forensic reports. Depending on the engagement, reports may vary. Investigation reports detailing suspected fraud or misconduct. Expert witness reports prepared for court or arbitration. Interim reports during ongoing investigations. Final comprehensive reports summarizing entire engagement outcomes. Now we will discuss handling sensitive findings. Present sensitive or adverse findings tactfully but clearly. Avoid speculative or unsupported statements. Recommend further actions when findings are inconclusive but raise concerns. Next point is reporting to different stakeholders. Customize the report tone and detail based on the audience. Management, audit committee, regulators, or courts. Be prepared to provide oral testimony or clarifications when required. Maintain professionalism and impartiality regardless of recipient. Now we will discuss responsibilities of the forensic professional. Ensure the report is factually accurate and unbiased. Maintain professional integrity and confidentiality. Keep thorough documentation to support every assertion. Stay prepared for follow-up questions or legal scrutiny. In last, a conclusion is you. In conclusion, FAIS 510, reporting results, ensures that forensic professionals communicate their findings with clarity, accuracy, and professionalism. A well-prepared report is not only a record of investigation, but a powerful tool for justice, governance, and risk mitigation. Thank you for joining this session. Stay tuned as we continue exploring the other areas of forensic accounting and investigation. Welcome to this last learning session on Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Today, we focus on FAIS 610, Quality Control, a vital standard ensuring that forensic engagements meet the highest standards of professionalism, reliability, and integrity. First point is objective of FAIS 610. The purpose of FAIS 610 is to establish policies and procedures that ensure consistent quality in forensic accounting and investigation work, promote adherence to professional standards, legal requirements, and ethical principles, enhance confidence in forensic reports and opinions by clients, regulators, and courts, mitigate risks related to errors, omissions, or bias during forensic engagements. Now we will discuss scope, of FAIS 610. It applies to all forensic engagements undertaken by professionals and firms, development and implementation of a quality control framework within forensic practices, monitoring and review mechanisms to assure ongoing compliance with forensic standards. New. We will discuss key components of quality control. A. Leadership responsibilities. Commitment by firm leadership to quality and ethical standards. Clear assignment of roles and responsibilities regarding quality control. B. Relevant ethical requirements. Compliance with the Code of Ethics for Chartered Accountants. Independence, objectivity, confidentiality, and professional behavior. C. Acceptance and continuance of client relationships. Assessing the integrity and reputation of clients before engagement. Evaluating risks of engagement, acceptance, and potential conflicts of interest. D. Human resources. Ensuring personnel have appropriate competence, capabilities, and experience. Providing ongoing training and supervision for forensic staff. E. Engagement performance. Establishing policies for planning, conducting, reviewing forensic work. Using appropriate methodologies, tools, and documentation standards. F. Monitoring. Regular internal reviews and inspections of forensic engagements. Addressing identified deficiencies and implementing improvements. Next point is implementation of quality control procedures. Develop written policies and manuals detailing quality control processes. Conduct periodic training on FAIS and related standards. Maintain a system for review and approval of forensic reports before issuance. Document quality control activities and findings for accountability. Now we will discuss benefits of quality control. Enhances reliability and credibility of forensic investigations. Minimizes risk of professional negligence or malpractice. Builds client trust and strengthens professional reputation. Facilitates compliance with regulatory and legal expectations. Time for practical example, scenario. A forensic firm implements a quality control system requiring all reports to be peer-reviewed before submission. Result: errors or inconsistencies are identified early. Reports demonstrate consistency in methodology and presentation. Client satisfaction and confidence improve significantly. Next point is responsibilities of forensic professionals. Adhere to the firm's quality control policies. Continuously develop technical and ethical competence. Participate actively in monitoring and feedback processes. Report any non-compliance or quality issues promptly. In conclusion, FAIS 610. Quality control is fundamental for upholding the standard of forensic accounting and investigation services. It ensures that forensic professionals deliver work that is thorough, accurate, and trustworthy, which is essential for the credibility of forensic outcomes in legal and regulatory environments. Stay precise, stay professional, and always begin with the end in mind. Thank you, and see you in the next session with other areas of forensic audit and investigation as we move forward in mastering forensic excellence. We will be back with other fruitful videos.